In this morning, and my friend Russ said, "Welcome, Charles." He said, and then there was another woman at the door. She said, "Oh, we were a little bit worried about you." I said, "You were worried about this former Baptist preacher coming in on Unitarian Universalist time?" Because we normally start around 11 in most of our standard churches, so I got to adjust. And I think maybe what I'll do is come to Tampa on Saturday night, so I'll be closer. But I'm here, and I'm glad to be here, and I love y'all. I'm so happy to be in here with you. And I'm just having so much fun these days. I really am having a lot of fun. And I think about a time in my life when, I just had all these emotions that fluctuated and stuff that was going on in my head and feelings, all that kind of stuff. And I said, the place I'm in right now, I would not exchange for anything in the world. I was trying to find something I posted on Facebook. If I can find it here, I'm still on Unitarian Universalist time, so I got to go real fast. You got time? Okay. I don't want to take too much liberty with it, but oh gosh, I can't find. Where is it? It was so neat, and I got a thumbs up. I got a thumbs up from a woman who I know is more evangelical leaning in her theology, which is fine. Each soul walks its own path. But I said, "Wow, I got a thumbs up from her on that, so that's pretty good." What I said essentially was that if at this place in my life, it is delusional for me to be more in love with humanity, more in love with myself, and see our oneness. And there were some other things I put. I said, if that is problematic, then may I never find a cure. Because I've never been so happy, I've never been so full, and I've never been so in love with humanity and with myself than I am right now. And it's just glorious. It is real glorious. And I said when I came in, I had my little bag. I was wearing my bag across my shoulder, and I thought about my top, and I said, "I'm a hippie this morning. That's what I am." And I said, I envy women. I was teasing some women in a thrift store the other day. It's all right to go to thrift stores. I know somebody who's a congressional woman, a member of the Congress who goes to thrift stores. I like thrift stores. They're like an adventure. They can be addictive too. So, but anyway, I said, I'm dressed like a hippie. And I was looking at these bags that were hanging on these racks, and I said, and they were for women. And I said, "Well, how come I can't have one of these bags? They're so nice and pretty. I could." And one lady said, "You can wear it if you want to. I don't know how they look at you, but you can wear it if you want to." So anyway, this morning I'm glad to be here, and I want to ask you to do this for me. Pat, I send you these sermon titles, and this morning I have as a title for the sermon, "The Great Polarity." And when I reflect on my sermon titles, I say, "Boy, you really bit off a big chunk to talk about there in this morning." And so I'm going to ask you to indulge me, because I'm going to talk about it just in an introductory sort of way, because the Great Polarity is a very, very, very powerful and very insightful aspect of our existence. And you've had scientists and poets and philosophers and mystics wrestle with that over the centuries. They've wrestled and wrestled with it. And I'm certainly not going to tackle that football or make that touchdown in here this morning altogether. So I just want to share a few things with you about it to set the tone. And then when I come back again, I want to do a few exercises with you, so that we can delve into it even deeper. And maybe somewhere along the way, some of you will find out why I'm so happy. And so, what are you so happy about? Is he on something? Yeah, I'm on life. And life is a wonderful high once you begin to really understand it and put it in perspective. And that's my opinion, because there are people who disagree. But I think once you really begin to get a fundamental understanding of what this is all about, this process of living and existence and everything, you get real excited because it's a lot more intricate, it's a lot more beautiful, and it's a lot more powerful than our cosmologies and theologies have told us. And I think William Shakespeare was right when he said there are more things in heaven and earth, a ratio, than are dreamt of in your philosophies. That is so true. And I think even science, in a way, is beginning to show us vistas of things that are far beyond what we could have ever imagined. And it's giving us a sort of a view of things that are present and things to come that I think are marvelous. In fact, I was driving. I do Uber part-time. I'm an overworked and underpaid school teacher. We all say that. But I was driving this gentleman, and we started talking, and I said to him, I may not in this life live to see flying cars in the air, but you might. I think he was in his late 30s or early 40s. I said, I may not be around much more than another decade or so. And where I am right now in my life, except for the purpose of doing something to maybe help others, I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. When I was in high school, I was a nurse's aide. Well, they call them RNAs now. They got fancy names for them. I was an orderly when I was in high school. I did that full time. I worked after school. I went to school from 7:15 until 2:30, and then I rode my bicycle to work and worked from 3 to 11, and I absolutely loved it. But while I was working there, I met a guy named Otto. He was a distinguished-looking gentleman who had a Swedish background. He was Swedish. And I went and talked to him, and imagine this. I was an 18-year-old kid, and I walked in, and I would talk to my patients, those who would talk to me, those who weren't calling me names. It's funny how you get, when you go into what's called that second childhood, the things that come up out of your subconscious. I just thought it was funny when the patients would say certain things. It didn't offend me. I don't know why, but it didn't. I said, that is just so funny. And childish. As long as she don't hit me with nothing, I'm doing pretty good in here. But he said to me, he said, Charles, I'm in my 80s. I'm legally blind. And I have lived a good, resourceful, meaningful, pleasant life. Not that he didn't have his challenges, but he was saying overall, when I look at it, I'm ready to go any day. And I was thinking to myself, why would anybody be ready to die any day? And he said to me, I can't be here forever. And I have lived what I consider a fruitful and pleasant life. And so any moment now, I'm ready to go. And he seemed to be perfectly at peace with that. And that was really interesting for an 18-year-old kid to encounter at the nursing home. But it had an indelible imprint on my life. It really did. And now I'm in a place where I look at life, I look at my life, and I look at what we call mistakes. Now I believe it's just all a part of that evolutionary cycle or process we go through. It's about growth, and we make decisions with outcomes we may not like or we may not anticipate, but I don't think they're mistakes at all. I think there's something larger at work here, and what we call mistakes are really just all the process of living and what happens in life. And I believe through those things we grow. Amen? Oh, I just did a Baptist preacher thing, right? Amen. All right. So this morning I want to talk about what we call the Great Polarity. And the polarity is, according to the dictionary, the state of having two opposite or contradictory tendencies or aspects. And in this life, I believe those great polarities intersect. It's where two seemingly opposing truths intersect. And if you will look at your fingers on your hand, that is an example of a polarity. You have 5 fingers that are a part of one hand. And it wouldn't appear that individuations could be singularities too, but they can. Even as the waves on the ocean can be multicolored and can move in all sorts of different kinds of directions, but they're all a part of one ocean. I believe ultimately that we're all a part of a cosmic ocean. and it is immeasurable, and we are barely scratching the surface of it on this little blue dot we call Earth, which is one of the smallest planets in our solar system, which is among one of the smaller galaxies in our universe, which may be a small universe encased in other universes. We, I believe, quite possibly exist within the framework of realities within realities within realities within realities ad infinitum. And so some of the things that we get overly concerned with and the immediacy of challenges that we face can cause us to not understand or see that there's a larger picture. There's more than meets the eye. There's a lot more going on than we might think. Another way to think of this is in terms of being a dichotomy. Life is dichotomous. And we live in a universe and on a planet that is shaped within the framework of a dichotomy, polar opposites. That is what Jesus was talking about when he said Alpha and Omega, beginning and end, first and last. He was saying that you exist within a framework where you have opposites. And there's a purpose for those opposites. And let me give you an example. Within this contextual field, we exist, our universe is framed within it, and our existence on earth is framed within it. And I believe the reason for that is because the one thing that is all things, whatever you want to call it, has individuated, has diversified, has incarnated everything in existence. And ultimately, there's only one thing that is all things, whatever we want to call it. If you want to call it an energetic field, if you want to call it some happenstance occurrence. And I believe that this energy, this shapeshifter, this stem cell of our existence, not only is responsible for everything within existence, but is also connected to everything within existence. And I believe that we're all connected. Because you can be individuated, but not disconnected. And a part of the illusion of our existence on this planet is that we think because we are individuated, we are also separated. And along comes Martin Luther King Jr. We're all tied together in a single garment of destiny, bound by an inescapable network of mutuality. And what affects one directly affects all indirectly, because this is the way the universe is structured. And along comes John Donne saying, no man is an island entire of itself, but each man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. Therefore, never sin for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee, because you're involved in mankind. But I believe what has happened with our theologies and cosmologies, because of our first assumptions about life and what constituted life, we have been convinced that individuation means separation. And then science comes along and tells us everything's connected in the entire universe. Science comes along and tells us energy can neither be created nor destroyed. So there is no so-called beginning and end for energy. It just takes on different forms. Which, in my mind, and in my understanding, and I'm a student of Neil Donald Walsh, is that like this cosmic ocean has these waves that rise up out of it, what we call death is nothing but a recession back into that ocean. And over and over and over and over and over again. And not only do I believe that there was a Big Bang, but I believe we may be just beginning to touch the surface of one Big Bang. But that there were several Big Bangs, each one rising and falling to maybe the point of a pinhead and exploding and evolving and collapsing and exploding and evolving and collapsing, which is something we might call the breathing in and out of God. This great polarity is designed to serve us. That is why you find masters saying things like, curse not the darkness, but rather bless it. For what you judge shall also judge you, and what you resist will persist. So accept it as a part of the contextual field in which you exist, and within these immutable laws that also guide our universe. And there's something else called dyads and triads, which I won't even get into this morning. Those are aspects of our existence here. We have broad parameters for making decisions. That is the free will part of it. Nothing is written in stone. There's a brilliant black physicist who posts things occasionally. I can't think of his name right now. He's a brilliant guy. He's well known, highly respected. He posted something about how after a certain period of time, the universe will take this turn and that will take place. And I put at the bottom in my comment section, unless it doesn't. Because we have a certain amount of free will that allows us within this broad spectrum of love and fear, of polar opposites, to choose to decide, declare, and demonstrate who we are. And we've had exaggerated expressions or examples of that in our earthly experience. All the way from Vlad the Impaler to Gandhi, from Mussolini and Hitler to Martin King and Henry Thoreau, all the way from people who believe in sacrificing human beings on altars to Mother Teresa, who said, I'm God's little candle placing light in the world. And we can choose. The question is, as Shakespeare said, it is to be or not to be. What do you choose? What expression do you choose? And we must take in consideration as we're choosing these things that we are connected and that life is circular. Young people say what goes around comes around. And it does. In the biblical text it says, whatsoever you sow, that shall you also reap. Because we are connected and we impact each other. And if we take the perspective that we are connected, and a lot of our problems arise out of the fact that this very natural state that we exist in, where we are one, we are moving against. We fight against that. We are drawn to each other, and we're busy running away from each other. Because our cosmologies and theologies have taught us that to be individuated also means to be separated. And within this context, we have this wonderful ego. The ego is a beautiful thing because the ego allows you to be distinct. It allows you to be individuated. It gives you your unique perspective and experience. The ego is a good thing unless it is out of control. And an ego out of control, expansive beyond its design, shows up in ways that says, I'm better than you. I'm above you. You are lesser than me. When in actuality, we're all connected. We impact each other. And there's no such thing as better. There's only different. That's what I teach my students. There's no such thing as better. There's only different. We're different. Can we say that the leaves on an apple tree, some are better leaves than others? They're all expressions of that apple tree. And they are connected. And as I'm winding down here, because I only got through the first 2 pages, that tells you how extensive this thing can be. And I've gone off in about 20 different directions. Within the Great Polarity is the beauty of artistry, where we as individuations And I believe beings of divine proportion, we're much larger than we think. We're much more than our bodies. We're much more than physiological entities. There is something that is larger at work with an agenda within this realm. Scientists have seen these things they call energy fields around human beings. Those energy fields, I believe, are the imprint of something we call the soul, which is not within our bodies, but in and through all of it and encasing it. And that entity understands the great polarity. It understands that in order to experience loving, there must be a context where you have the opportunity to express love. That is why you find Jesus saying things like, "Bless those who curse you, and pray for those who despitefully use you." This is our opportunity to see the great polarity not as our enemy, but as an opportunity. It is our chance to say, like Robert Kennedy, "Some men see things that never were," and say, "Some men see things as they are, rather," and say, "Why?" I dream things that never were, and say, "Why not?" It is Dr. King saying on the last day of his life on this planet, "Only when it is dark enough can you see the stars." He was talking about the great polarity. He was saying that within the contextual field in which we exist, our eternal soul desires to know itself in its own experience. And without the contextual field, it can't be done. Many of us have read about, heard about, watched videos on, even perhaps tried to practice what we call the law of attraction. The law of attraction is a wonderful thing. As a matter of fact, it's happening all the time. Our thoughts are energy. We're making decisions in our sleep because all of it goes out into that universe into which we are connected. It's all energy. One of the fault lines, if you would, of the law of attraction is this. Yes, we can send energy into the universe to attract what it is we desire. And some of us say, "But you can't have what you want." You can. Because in addition to this great polarity and this great source of our existence, this experience is one of many. We're divine beings. We don't die, we transition. And we transition and transition and transition and transition. So if you can't be, and I say this is kind of humorous, but I think there's truth to it. Well, if you can't have what you want in this life, maybe in the next one. And I don't say that laughingly, although it sounds a little comedic. Because we are larger. And how many of you, let me ask this question. How many of you have experienced something called deja vu? Let's be honest about it. You have a sense that I've been here and done this before. And guess what? It is quite likely you have. Because we have more than one life to live. Science tells us energy can neither be created nor destroyed. So where does that energy go? I believe it goes back to the realm from which we came, and then it re-enters. One of these days I'll say something that'll make all of you get up and walk out, but it's truth, whether we like it or not, concerning this re-entry thing. Within that context of this energetic field of polar opposites and this opportunity to choose which direction we want to go, keeping in mind, this is the missing part, that we're connected and we're not in isolation. We're involved in the process of evolution, whether we're consciously aware of it or not. We are causing each other to evolve because you cannot be connected and not affect each other. But this law of opposite thing is this as I close. The energy goes out and you can attract it if you believe it. Because the universe cannot give you anything you don't believe you can have. But anything you believe you can have, the universe will grant you. Because the only response that the universe has, that God has, that the primal cause has, is yes. I'm going to be a millionaire one day. The universe says yes. You're going to be a millionaire one day. Maybe not on Monday, but perhaps on Wednesday. The field of attraction often falls off the cliff at this point. In order for you to experience what it is that you desire, there must be a field of opposites. And guess what? Many of us give up when the field of opposites appear. When you declare something, everything that is opposite to it appears because of the great polarity. And I know that some of us can attest to the fact that we've said, I'm going to go down there on Monday and I'm going to take care of this business. And then all of a sudden the phone starts ringing and other stuff comes up. And you're like, just the minute I decided I was going to do that, it looked like everything opposing to it showed up. Well, this is what is meant by bless that curses you. It is to say that in order for you to experience richness, the contextual field of what is not rich appears as cheerleaders to let you know you're on the right track. Just keep going. Don't resist, because if you resist us, we will persist. But if you accept the fact that this is a part of the process, you will eventually get where you're going because of the great polarity. And many people, two things, who did not have as a sponsoring thought. It's the thought behind the thought behind the thought. It's not just what we declare, but what we truly believe, because we can't fool the universe. We cannot fool the universe. If we declare it and we believe it, I think it was Jesus again that says, all things are possible to them that believe. If the sponsoring thought was disingenuous, the outcome will not be there. And secondly, with the law of attraction, you have to go through the cheerleaders that say no in order to get to yes. That is a part of the great polarity. Why did Hitler appear? Collective consciousness helped to create Hitler. It wasn't him alone. Hitler appeared to show us the extreme example of what we're capable of becoming, just as the Christ appeared, to show us you can go this direction or that direction. It's up to you as individuals and as collective societies. What serves us? It's not so much a matter of what's right and wrong, because we can argue over that all day. But what serves us within this contextual field to choose to experience. And when we look around at our world today, we can see that many of our traditional cosmologies and theologies have not brought us to the place that we say we want to be. 90+% of the time we've been on this planet, we've been at war with each other. We've been competing. Survival of the fittest. To the victor goes the spoils. Competition. Those are constructions that work against the natural nature or the natural composite of what we are. I believe our first instinct is love. And that when we understand that our first instinct is love, we will stop choosing fear. Because love and fear are the only things that drive our emotions. So why do so many people go to the right and become extreme? Fear. The young man who went into the church, I believe in North Carolina, and killed all those black people in the Bible study. Fear. Replacement theories. You're taking over. You're pushing us out. You're working against us. He encased that. And it drove him with his love for what he considered the white is right, that he had to exterminate that which was not white. Love and fear. There's no such thing as hate. It's a word we made up. It's either fear or love. because of these great polarities and the contextual field in which we exist. Those are some of the foundational things, and believe me, there's much more fruit hanging on that tree than I shared this morning, but hopefully you got at least a sense or enough to stimulate you to begin thinking about this whole idea of the great polarity.